Welcome back to Mushoku Tensei Jobless Reincarnation Anime Review, episode number 10. This reviewing the 15th episode of the series, which is called Slow Life in the Doldia Village. Mm-hmm. Yep. This one adapts pretty much the rest of chapter number 9. Because part of this chapter was adapted last week's episode, and this week's episode finished up the chapter and adapts portions. I would say the first quarter of, let's say, chapter 10 and a little bit something later, and that is all they adapted for. They didn't fully adapt chapter 10. Nope, they didn't. The episode, interestingly, starts off with, well, we see Eris and two of the Beast Girls, who actually are the granddaughters of the village chief, and later on reveal their goddess nieces. That was their sword teacher, where they're basically, it looks like near like a ramp, and it was like a bathing, and this is actually not where the chapter starts off in the book, where they start adapting from. This comes up a little bit later, I'd say about a few pages into the chapter. That's when this portion comes up. We have Rudius spying on them, and of course, this guy, I don't remember, I think his name is, he's Gasha's brother. What is this guy's name? Gaius. Yes, Gaius. He is watching. He's like, Rudius, you are sexually aroused, and what he did is like people watching. It's like, and he does thank him. He's very grateful him for basically helping him out with the previous episode, but he will not accept him doing anything to his daughter. He pops out, and he says, "I'm sorry." And now there is a little bit that happens after this, but they cut that out of this episode. Because next thing we see Eris not wearing her outfit she had wearing. She wore like a beast woman attire. And she wears throughout the rest of this episode, where she plays with the two girls. And one of them, Tanya, she teaches swordplay after after playing. It does mention about the ring. Now, this actually is a rearranging of scenes, because the whole mentioning of Gasha, basically Gasha's little sister, in the book, this actually happened before that. They kind of put this after that bathing scene, and of course, they talk about how awesome she is, and the fact that later on we have Tanya asking Eris teacher sword fighting, and she agrees to it, but she's a strict teacher. And they do mention that by the time they finally leave, they have like a bit of a montage in a way of what's been going on. Like, you see Rudius basically playing with the sacred beast. Yeah, playing with the sacred beast and being aroused, though he's one aroused, not him. And there's a bit dialogue cut out here, which don't particularly mind it, because it's a bit perverted dialogue that he's saying to this beast woman. Yeah, they cut it out here. Yeah, it's almost like they cut a lot of stuff out of chapter, like, they cut portions out of chapter 9, and they don't that much chapter 10. After training with Eris for 3 months, Eris reveals to Tanya, they reveal that the rainy season is pretty much almost over, and they're going to be leaving, and they get into a fight. Now, in the anime, like, they actually show the fight. In the book, it was a brief mentioning for like one sentence. And here, it's like, oh, they actually show the fight that was mentioned in the book. Which, good job for the studio for doing that, for actually showing something that was mentioned in the book. And of course, Rudius does bring up Eris. You held back, didn't you? And she's like, yep, given the fact of those bruises, I kind of buy it. So eventually, Tanya, well, she and her, I think it's her sister, do reminisce about the past 3 months that happened here. And she enjoys basically training with her, that she does go eventually apologize to her. We do see Rudius where he carves a figurine of Raja, and of course the younger sister, what is her name? It's not Tanya, it's Antonia. Yes. She is carving Rudius and Eris, and eventually she decides to keep them along with Raja, probably because she likes the group. And then it's revealed the whole thing about, the chief and Raj become buddy-buddy, which, yeah, this is not a abrupt change from the book, where they cut some dialogue out. Actually, they kind of did. It's like some stuff is missing here, but they had to basically. My guess is that the studio probably there was a mandate they had to finish book 4 adapting in this episode, and then move on to book 5 because they're already 4 episodes in, and they only got 8 episodes left, so they can't exactly waste time explaining every single little detail happening here. Eventually, Eris does reconcile with the 2 girls. They apologize, become good friends. Of course, Gaius does thank her, become a good friend to his nieces. Then, of course, they have a sparring session. It's very brief. And this is something else. This is something that they actually, from what I can tell, didn't happen in the book, but they had to put it here anyways. It's quite nice. And then, of course, later on we see that Goose, well, they get a carriage. They go off. And, of course, Goose does travel with them. Now, they do cut a big chunk out of what happens when he gets on board. Because right after this, then we have a scene where they talk about the seven like gods. They mention 4 of them are like they mention about technique god. They do mention the demon god has been sealed. 3 of them are missing. They don't mention what happened to the other ones though. No, not really. As a matter of fact, they actually do not mention the fate of them. They just mention they're just people don't know where they are. In the book, they kind of mention exactly this. So I'm not sure why they cut this out, but and then after seeing the mime one more time, that's where the episode ends. And you're like, wait, that's it? Like, if you read the book, a lot of this stuff later on, like the last, I would say 5 minutes of the episode comes from chapter 10, and it's not full adaptation. It's a partial adaptation. They had the first portion of the chapter really good, and then they cut a big chunk out. I'd say about 5 to about 10 pages they cut out here because there's a scene of them cooking. And then comes the sword thing, and then comes something later. Maybe they're saving that for next week's episode. That's possible. They might be doing that. Excuse me. I would say that the best thing about this episode is the montage of Eris and Tanya in the training. I think that's the best thing about this episode. The only thing that was weakness is the lots of cuts they made here. Like, lots of cuts. Probably more than usual. I haven't seen this many cuts since, the opening episode. Now, there's also an extra story in book 4. Was that for an episode? I don't think it was. No, I don't think it was. They probably got saved for later. Yep. So yeah, that's it for Cycle Review. Stay tuned for my next review. I still have a few more videos to do today, and we'll do Black Clover, another Comic Corner, along with One Piece and Boruto, and that'll be it for today. So roughly about 4 more videos coming today. Okay, next video. Bye.